Welcome back, chart addicts, to the Expert Trader podcast series. We have a very special guest in the house today. Mr. Abel Melendez is with us. Abel, say hi to the traders at home.
What's going on, everybody? How you guys doing today?
Abel, really appreciate you for getting on the Expert Trader podcast. I know that the people at home are going to gain a lot from this interview, so I'm very, very excited to get this started. Start off, for the folks at home that don't know who you are, introduce yourself and talk to us a little bit about your Forex journey and where you came from and where you are now.
Yeah, for sure. So for those of you guys that don't know who I am, I go by the name of Abel Melendez. I'm 29 years old. I am a father of two. I also have one on the way right now, which is another blessing. And I've been trading now for the past 5.5 years in total. I've been doing it full time for the past 3 years. And this has been an absolute journey, because I went from me trying to figure this thing out by myself, or at least trying to figure this thing out by myself, to not really getting nowhere, eventually realizing that I needed mentorship, I needed guidance. To finding guidance, getting that guidance, really allowing that guidance to position me in a way to where I seen results. And then once I started seeing results, I started teaching people, started mentoring. And it led me to actually becoming a part of, a platform that I'm still a part of today. And I'm able to teach thousands across the whole world now. And it's absolutely a blessing, but yeah, that's a little bit about my journey.
That's awesome. For you guys that don't know who Abel Melendez is, he's really one of the more well-known names in Forex education just because of the volume of students that he's touched, the amount of people that got introduced to trading that Abel has had the chance to work with and had the chance to teach them the ropes of the fundamentals and the basics of trading, as well as how to apply that. Abel has been one of the most notable names at doing that. So Abel, welcome to the Chart Addicts podcast. Let's kick this off. Let's start with a blockbuster. Give the traders at home some tips. If these guys are just starting out, what should they really be focusing on in their spare time? What should they be using their free time to do now that they have it during this quarantine?
Right now is all about really focusing on the skill, right? Because a lot of people, obviously, we join Forex, right, to make money, right? That's usually the biggest goal, biggest intention is to come in and start making money, right? Enough so that we can eventually supplement our income at a job. But when you focus on the money's not going to come, right? So what I always tell newest traders is stop focusing on the money. And now that you guys have free time, put as much time as possible into focusing on the skill. Because once you understand the skill, money is just a byproduct of you understanding exactly what the skill is when it comes to trading, right? So focus on the skill, not the money. You master the skill, the money's going to come by default.
That's awesome. So that's one of the most important things that they could be focusing on is actually learning that skill. So within, the scope of learning that skill, what should they really be using their time doing? Is it reading books? Is it watching YouTube videos? Is it looking at charts?
One of the biggest things that helped me personally is obviously getting in the chart time, right? You have to put in chart time. You have to make sure you're actually looking at the charts, seeing the patterns that the market creates. And not just that, also look for mentorship, right? If you're somebody that you feel like you can do this by yourself, I'm going to be the one to tell you it's very, very hard to do it by yourself with no guidance, right? So if you have some time and you're looking to do it by yourself, right? Cut the learning curve in half and find a mentor that's doing it, right? See exactly what got them to the point that they're at. Mimic everything that they did, and by default you can start having the results that they have as well, right? So find a mentor, right? Start getting some chart time down pack, and then also start understanding the importance of risk management, right? Big key here, right? A lot of people want to come in and make money, but they focus so much on chart work, the technicals, right, and so many other things, and they don't focus enough on risk management and why it's so important to actually perfect risk management and also risk to reward as well, right? Those key things are very important as well.
All right. That's awesome. That's a great list of 3 is find mentorship. Make sure you guys are putting in the chart hours. I think that's something that we can all agree you can't skip on, and make sure you guys are understanding your risk management. So Abel, if we're on the topic of mentorship, what in your opinion makes a good mentor, and what should students out there be looking for in a mentor?
This is one of the biggest things, right? I'm very big on mentorship now, right? Because I know from my journey, right? My whole first year and a half was me trying to do it by myself. And I learned a lot of the technicals, but technicals only makes up, I say, around 10 to 20% of what Forex truly is, right? So you really need that guidance, that hands-on help, right? So when I look for a mentor, for one, I look for somebody that I have access to, right? That is not somebody that's just going to sign me up to their course, their mentorship program, and then just, leave me be dry, right? And just leave me to the pre-recorded videos that they have. No, I want to be able to have access to them, right? I want to be able to call them, right? Text them, FaceTime them, right? Whenever I have a question or a problem I need solved, I need to be able to reach out to them, right? So that's the first thing. Number 2, right? Actually make sure that they know what they're talking about, right? Because nowadays anybody can create a video on YouTube about support and resistance, right? Anybody can create a video on trend lines, right? But not everybody actually has results, right? So really find somebody that's credible, right? If they don't want to show you their results, which is cool, not every mentor is going to be like, oh, here's my $1 million account, right? They're not going to show you it. at least see if they're credible by their students, right? See if they have any students that have results, right? Start to tap into their network, right? Because again, I'm gonna be real. As much as everybody wants to see how much we make, and so many people want us to show bank accounts and things like that to prove our, if we actually do it, everybody's not gonna do that, right? Especially somebody like myself. I'm not gonna just go around showing people how much I make, because I'm a target, right? I travel a lot, right? So I can't be putting a target on my back at the end of the day. But what I can do is I can show you my track record. I could show you my students' track records, right? And if they have things like that where they have not just their own results, but they're able to teach other people and their students have results, right? Then that's somebody that okay, they have some type of credibility. You have to have a community behind them, right? So that's another one. And the one that I really, really focus on the most is make sure that they're doing it with the right intentions, right? Make sure that they actually have, some, I like to call not hard work, right? Make sure they're not putting in hard work, but make sure they're putting in heart work with their students, right? Heart work, right? That's what I like to say, right? Because again, so many people nowadays, right? We have gurus popping up every so often, right? But so many people are just doing it for the money, right? Because they know that they can make money from signing people up. No, right? A true mentor is going to put in the heart work with you, right? Even if it's just you by yourself, they're going to be there every step of the way. They're going to guide you, right? They're going to tell you the real, the raw of what it takes to actually become a successful trader. So that's one of the most important things, right? Make sure that they have the heart work. Make sure that they're going to put in hard work for you, right? So that you can actually get what you're looking for out of this.
Man, that's great. And I know that you embody that, especially when I first met you. You were even giving me pointers in trading, and you were really sitting down and being a really good friend to me. And I barely knew you. I actually didn't know you. I met you through a mutual friend, and you opened yourself up to me, and you were gracious enough to throw those nuggets my way. And I definitely ate those up. So I know that that's your personality. And I can't imagine anybody ever asking a mentor to be less accessible, being less credible, ever having less or worse intentions for them. So I think that's a really great list. I heard accessibility. I heard make sure this person is knowledgeable. You can look at their students for results. If these people are not willing to actually just show you their bank accounts, just look at the reputation of their mentorship, look at the credibility of their mentorship. And last but not least, this one actually threw a curveball at me. You said their intentions. Mm-hmm. So that's honestly great. So talk to us about what you think some biggest hurdles are for traders coming in, and for existing traders that have been on this journey for, let's say, a year and they're kind of stuck. What do you see getting in their way the most?
I mean, most people get in the way themselves, right? It's usually yourself is that stopping you from getting to the next level, because again, you can understand the technicals, you can understand the fundamentals, but it's usually your own mindset that's really stopping you, right? We all know that trading itself is not easy at all, right? It's one of the most hardest professions to actually get into. And it's because most people do not have the right mindset when they're joining this, right? Most people come in, maybe because somebody told them that they can get rich overnight, right? So most people come in with the intentions of making $1 million right away, right? So they're coming in super greedy, right? They have no concept of risk management, right? They're over here over leveraged on every single trade, and not just that, but, so many people also, they have that shining ball syndrome, right? Where they jump from strategy to strategy to strategy, right? Thinking that there's one golden strategy out there. Well, there's not, right? There's millions of strategies that you can make $1 million from. You just need to be consistent with one, right? That was my biggest issue when I first started, right? I was going from strategy to strategy to strategy, right? Thinking that I could find the golden one, not realizing that it's not about that. It's about just finding one and sticking with it, right? Every single trader that I know that's actually successful in this, they found one strategy and they dealt with it through the losses, no matter what, right? No matter how many losses came, they stuck with it until eventually those losses started turning into much more wins, right? So, being consistent with it, right? Having patience, being disciplined, right? There's so many factors that really stop us, right? But most of the time, the reason why most people are not successful is not even usually because of the mentor. It's because of themselves, right? They're not taking this as serious as they think they should have, right? Most people treat this as a hobby. And this is not something that you can treat like a hobby, right? If you want to get hobby-like results, then yeah, treat it like a hobby. If you want to get business-like results, you have to treat this as an actual business, right? It's point-blank period, right? So many people are over here playing with the concept of trading, right? Because they're more curious. No, you got to be serious about this, right? Curiosity is not going to get you nowhere. Being serious about this skill set, that's what's going to allow you to actually see the results long-term.
All right, that's actually really good. I heard that you were talking about the personal responsibility aspect. Because I also see that it's like if somebody's going to blame somebody else for their results, it's not really going to help them grow. It's not really going to help them understand what they did wrong. So that personal responsibility really stuck out to me. Now, you mentioned that most of the successful traders that have one strategy and they stuck through it, through the losses, through the wins, so they can understand it. Can you talk to us a little bit about that and the importance of having a strategy that you perfect?
Yeah, for sure. Understand this, right? Confidence is very important when it comes to trading, right? When you're looking for a setup and you're getting ready to take a trade, you need to be confident in that trade. right? I mean, this is the thing. Losses are a part of the game, right? We can't fear losses, right? It's literally a part of it, right? That's like a basketball player, expecting to make every shot, right? Of course, they shoot the ball with the intentions of making it, but if they miss on that shot, you think that's going to discourage them? No, right? They understand that this is part of the game, right? You're not going to win every single shot. Same thing with trading. You're not going to win every single trade, right? But you still have to trade with the confidence as if every single trade is going to actually win, right? Because confidence is key. Once you don't have confidence, then guess what? The psychology starts to come in and you start to overthink things, right? Once there's no confidence there, now you're going to start to overcomplicate things, right? Now you're going to start to overdo it, right? Start to, you're going to pretty much get yourself out of the actual setup, so having confidence is key. Now, how do you build confidence? Through repetition, right? Repetition is key, right? That's why it's so important to stick to one strategy, right? Because as you do it over and over and over again, your confidence is going to grow, right? Your confidence is going to grow, right? So it's all about repetition, right? Once you repeat the same strategy over and over again, your confidence in it is going to grow. And that confidence that you have in it is going to keep you focused in the long-term picture of it.
So would you say confidence plays more of a role in someone's trading than like just focusing on analysis? So a lot of people might confuse losing a trade. They might think that they didn't do enough analysis when really it was their conviction and their confidence.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that plays a huge role in it, right? Because like for me, I mean, I've been doing the same exact strategy for the past 2-3 years, right? So like my confidence in it is extremely high, right? If I see a setup, I'm taking it every single time that I see it, right? But there's people out there that don't have that type of confidence yet, right? And they see a strategy that they might have seen a million times, right? But since they lack that confidence, it stops them from even taking the trade, right? Or it causes them to even jump into trade and then jump out of the trade early, right? Little things like that, right? So yeah, focus on the strategy, right? Figure out if it freaking works for one. And if it works, just remain consistent with it, right? Repeat the process over and over and over again. Build that confidence up. Because once your confidence is through a roof, especially if you've seen it actually play out over and over again, and it's long-term profitable, then yeah, it's going to help you out tremendously down the road.
Abel, you have a great way of keeping things simple when you're explaining trading concepts. How do you keep things simple for yourself? How do you view the markets in a way? And I guess that leads into the second question, which is what separates your teaching style from others?
I'm very big on simplicity, right? We're talking about one of the most complex markets in the world, right? So I don't care about being the best trader. I don't care about being the most complex trader. I don't care about having the most complex strategy, right? Because there's a lot of ego stroking in this game, right? Where so many strategies out there, right? Like, oh, no, this is the best. I don't care about none of that, right? I care about being able to catch pips so I can make money so that I can pay my bills, right? And for me personally, keeping things as simple as possible was that way, right? So like I'm very big on market structure, price action, right? Which I wouldn't say it's like an actual strategy. I feel like those are components of the actual market itself, right? So like me focusing on the components of the market, right? And why the market actually moves, being able to identify the patterns, that's simple for me, right? Because now I just follow the waves. Now I identify the patterns and I know what the potential of that trade work and actually go long-term, right? So simplicity is my biggest thing. And that's what I try to preach to everybody. Like, don't come in here with an ego, right? Don't come here trying to be the best, right? At what you're doing. Don't come here trying to find a crazy strategy. Find something that's simple. And then once you get that down packed, then you can start adding things on moving forward later on.
So how important is it for traders to make sure that they master the basics of trading, or make sure they master the basics of analysis before they go on to trying to, make $1 million or adapt a golden strategy? How important is that?
I mean, it's extremely important. I mean, just like what I just said right there, right? It's all about mastering the components first, right? Like for me personally, like most of my analysis, right? I always make sure I understand what market structure is doing. I always understand what price action, how to actually read price action as well, certain, around certain key levels. But because I'm very good at that now, and that's what I've been doing for the past 3 years, right? Now I started adding other things, right? Like now I trade institutional base, right? Smart money concepts, right? So once you master these basic things like market structure, right? How to identify a trend, right? Market structure, how to identify patterns, right? Things like that. You can start to add other techniques on top of it, right? That's only going to make it much better, because trading off a market structure, although it is very basic, it is very simple, you're not always going to get the best entries, right? Because you're going to be able to just play off of those structure points. But when you add something in like, smart money concepts, right? Or institutionalized based trading, right? Which helps you identify where to actually enter the market. See, now you're actually perfecting that strategy even more, right? So I focus on market structure, price action first. I got very, very good at that. I got profitable with that. And then I started adding more things to my belt just to go ahead and improve on it much better.
So I'm actually curious about this. And to the traders at home that don't know, could you explain what institutional money concepts are?
hmm Yeah, so you got to realize, right, who actually trades in this market, right? So we got us, retail traders. We have big banks, corporations, hedge funds, governments, right? They all participate in these markets, right? But it's usually the banks that are ones that are actually moving these markets, because they're the ones in it every single day, right? And they have billions and $1 billion, access, right? So they can move it by the push of a button. Right now, based off of, again, this is just a theory, right? Just like everything else, there's theories out there, right? But when it comes to like smart money concepts, it's all about trying to identify where the banks are actually hiding, right? Trying to identify pools of liquidity, right? Where there's money positioned, right? So that the market, because we know that typically the market is going to move towards those areas of liquidity, right? Those pools of liquidity, and those usually pools of liquidity is areas where most retail traders get trapped in, right? There's a reason why most people that are trading off of retail trading techniques are not successful today. It's because they're falling for the traps that the banks and the institution are setting for them. So once you do understand these institutional plays and you do understand how the banks, or what we like to say the banks, are actually doing, right, then it's going to help you not trade against them, but trade with the banks and start, actually riding the moves that the banks are actually going to do on purpose, right? So for the most part, you're able to get crazy entries when you understand smart money concepts. You're also able to get into profit right away because, again, you're riding the trends with the banks, the ones who are actually moving the markets. And it's just going to make it easier for the psychology because now you don't have to deal with too much drawdown if you actually know the entire concept, right? You're in profit usually like this when you understand it.
All right, that sounds priceless. If you guys have never heard of that, you guys just got an introduction into something that I personally agree with. So if you guys want to go back and re-listen to everything that Abel just said, make sure you guys rewind that and get some good tidbits because that was really important. I want to shift gears, Abel, to some lessons, right? Because we're all students of the market, and somebody like you, we're looking at you, and some will be like, maybe Abel has everything figured out. Maybe Abel has cracked the code. Can you let people know some of the biggest lessons that you've learned from trading? And I also want to ask you, what are some recent lessons that you've learned?
Right. So for one, all right, yes, I'm doing pretty well, but I feel like I'm just beginning my journey. All right. I've been trading for 5 years now, right? But I still feel like I'm a rookie in this game. And the reason for it is because you got to realize, right? Yeah, I'm making such and such amount of money, but there's somebody else doing what I do in a year and a day. Right. So like, why would I start to get a big ego? So a few things for me that I struggled with, right, when I first started was patience. Right. Like, I don't care how much of a patient person you think you are. Right. You're really not patient until you realize in this game, right, how impatient you truly are. Right. So patience is one thing, like that was one of my biggest hurdles, right, was just having the patience that you truly need to let these trades ride out, let these trades do what they got to do, or even the patience that you need to let the market get into an area that it's supposed to get to. Right. It's just so many people going under, they fall for the FOMO, right, the fear of missing out, to where they're just jumping into trades randomly. Right, they're just jumping into trades randomly. 1 second. Right, they're just jumping into trades randomly, and they have no concept as to why they did it. All right, and this is actually something that I did. I actually did a session, right, for the academy I'm a part of, right, last Friday, right, and it was a rookie mistake, but I always own up to my mistakes, right, and not just me, but I love to teach on my mistakes, right, because it's fine and dandy when I make a win, right? I could brag about that, teach people what I did, but that's really not teaching nobody anything, right? So like for me, I focus on my losses when I teach, right? Because that's what people are experiencing, right? That's what they're relating to right now, right? So last week, right, I was actually in the airport, or I was actually right before I was about to get into the airport, right? I was looking for a setup. I wanted to jump into the trade before, obviously I got onto the flight, I was, with the intentions of getting on that flight. Hopefully the trade went the direction I was waiting for, and by the time I landed, right, I was up a certain amount of money, right? That was the goal. But because I jumped the gun and I rushed the trade, I didn't let the actual setup truly form, right? So I jumped in before I had my full confirmations. And when I landed, it didn't go the way that I expected, right? So I took a decent loss on that. It's because, again, I wasn't patient, right? I was trying to rush it, right? I was trying to just jump in just so I could get into that trade before I took off. And ultimately, the market humbled me for it, right? That's the thing, right? If you're not humble in these markets, you will be humbled, right? Like the market will humble you if you are not humble and doing things that you need to be doing. That's why it's so important to have a rule-based strategy, right? And follow those rules to a T, right? Have patience, have discipline to follow those rules, and the results are going to continue to grow long-term.
So the biggest takeaway I took from that, and this is something I really think that I'll implement more, which is learning more from the losses than the winners. Right? It's always fun to go back on the weekends and backtest your trades for the past week and to look at the winners and be like, yeah, here's how I can possibly do that again. But I feel like there's even more value in figuring out what went wrong and how to avoid those. So that's some great advice, and I really appreciate that. So how can, this is actually something that I'm curious about. How can somebody build that patience in order to withstand? It's maybe it's patience or it's endurance, right? Like how long can you hold a trade or can you wait for the right setup? How can somebody work on that muscle and build that?
Mm-hmm. I mean, that's only going to come through experience for yourself. Like, yeah, I could tell you guys tips that help me out personally. One of my tips for having patience while riding a trade out, right, is to obviously just set it and forget it, right? Here's an actual tip that I recommend you guys to try, right? I got this from one of my boys, Anthony Scaglione, one of my biggest mentors, right? He actually taught me this trick that helped me with my patience. So I'll take a trade, right? The trade goes into my direction. I'm in a certain amount of pips. I'm in a good amount of pips, right? I'll move my stop loss to break even to protect our account, right? We all do that, right? Protect our account as soon as possible. But one thing that he said is, once you go break even on that account, withdraw 75% of the money that's in that account, right? And then transfer it over to a different account and then start trading on that new account, right? Because now you're not going to be focused on that trade that's already running, right? Because you're going to be focused on just taking trades on this new account. And that's a little trick. A lot of people didn't know that you can actually withdraw while the trade is running. You can withdraw while the trade is running, as long as you leave enough in there to cover your margin in case the market does come back and correct, right? So that has tremendously helped me out a lot. Like I'm telling you, like it got to a point where like I would take these trades, I let it ride, right? I withdraw 75% of it once I'm in profit and, I know I can't lose on that. I'll transfer that remainder into a new account and then I'll just focus on that new one. And then by the time I check back on this one, it already smacked TP. Right. So I wasn't focused on that. I'm focused on this other one. And my patience just started to grow because of that.
Do you continue to trade the multiple accounts or do you put your focus onto the new account now as soon as you move it over?
I just focus on the new account. I let this one do what it got to do. What's the worst that can happen? I can hit that break even.
Okay.
Cool. Right. I didn't take no loss on it at the end of the day. Right. But the best thing that can happen is it goes all the way to TP now. Right. Because I'm more of a day trader / swing trader. Right. Mainly a swing trader. So I'm usually in positions for a few days if I have to.
Okay.
But if I don't move that over every single second of the day, I'm going to be focused like, damn, what's going on? And at times when I see a little correction, I'm like, you know what, let me just close out. But then a few hours later, it shoots right back up. And now I'm like, damn, I could have just made all this money. So now I just rather avoid that, right? Just move the money over, let that thing just ride, not even check it, right? Focus on my new account and just start looking for more setups and just repeat the process. That has tremendously helped me out a lot.
Some of you just heard that and it clicked. I know some of you just heard that and it clicked. If it didn't, go back and re-listen to that and make sure it makes sense. There's a strategy. We're not recommending that this is going to work for everybody. This is for everybody, but it's a strategy to keep yourself accountable and to make sure that you're employing that patience that's needed in order to watch these trades fully play out. That's awesome. So Abel, I actually want to ask you a little bit of another question about lessons. Are there any lessons that you've learned from your students that you'd like to share with us?
Oh yeah, 100%. Right? Because students, they come in super hungry, they come in super focused, but they do it to a point where it's affecting them tremendously, right? Because so many people come in, and when obviously this is just the world in general, right? We all want to see results right away, right? That's everybody, right? But when they do that, they come in with the intentions of making a lot of money right away. And I have to be the one to humble them and be like, yo, it's not going to happen like that. Like, yeah, it's possible because there's a lot of crazy results out there. But reality of it is you got to have a lot of patience with it. So one thing that I always tell my students is this. I'm like, listen, if you want to do this for a living, right? If you want to do this for the rest of your life, then stop trading as if you had to retire tomorrow. All right. Let me repeat that because that went over a lot of people's head, right? Don't be out here trading, right? If you want to do this for a living, stop trading as if you had to retire tomorrow, right? Trust the process, right? Go with the flow, the ebbs and flows of the market, right? Deal with those ups and downs that are going to come, but realize that you're going to do this for the rest of your life. So you don't have to rush the process, right? Because when you do get it, you're going to be able to do it for the rest of your life. So that's one thing I learned from my students personally is just tell them like, yo, just think long-term with this, right? Don't think about where you're going to be in a year. Don't think about where you're going to be in 2-3 years. Think about where you're going to be in 5-10 years once you actually get this concept down packed.
Wow. All right. I want to keep this interview going for as long as possible because I feel like you're providing so much value. Abel, talk to us about a recent lesson that you've learned. Mm-hmm. Something that you recently took away, because I think people that look at mentors, they look at somebody that they look up to, they think that person has everything figured out and that they're not constantly learning. So I want to know, can you explain some new lessons and how important it is to keep yourself, learning?
Listen, one thing for me and one thing that I always say is I don't try to be the best trader, right? That's not my goal in life, right? My goal is not to be the best trader, not to be the best mentor. My goal in life is to be the best student, no matter what, right? Because the best students are the ones that are continue learning, continue growing. They're the ones that are going to be here long term, continue to grow, right? So that's one thing that for me personally, I've really been learning a lot more is just continue to grow, continue to learn, right? I still have mentors, right? I still watch mentors that I learn from every single day, right? So I always tell people, like, don't let me outwork you, right? Because I already got, a significant amount of money, right? I already got the title, I got the position, right? But don't let me outwork you. If I'm still watching trainings, if I'm still learning every single day, then why are you stopping? Why are you getting stagnant, right? No, don't do that. And another thing as well that I realized that less is more, right? Less is more, okay? The less trades I take, it seems like the more money I end up making, right? So I'm very big now. I'm very strict, right? A lot of people think I take a 1,000 trades in a week. No, right? I maybe take like 3, 5, 7 trades in a week now, right? Because I became disciplined when it comes to that. And I realized that the less trades I take, the less emotionally involved I become on these charts, right? And the less trades I took, the more TPs I used to hit now, right? Because I wasn't focused on trying to catch every single trade that was shown. No, right? Find the best ones, the ones that make the most sense, give you the best risk reward, and then just let those ride out.
That's awesome. That's priceless. That's really priceless. Abel, earlier you were talking about rules-based strategies for trading. Can you explain to us the dangers of not having a rule-based system and just sort of random trading?
Oh my God. Yeah, of course. I mean, if you don't have no rules, if you don't have a trading plan, if you don't have no type of structure, no guidance, then you're trading off of pure emotion, right? And that's not what we can do here, right? When you don't have no structure, you're just playing off of, oh man, it's so high, let me sell it down, right? Oh man, it's so low, let me buy it up. You don't have no logic behind that, right? As long as you're trading off of your emotions and no logic behind it, then you're not going to see no results at all. You have to have a rule-based strategy. You have to make sure that every single trade that you take is based off logic, not off of emotions, right? And if you do that, then yeah, let the results eventually come, right? But that's one of the biggest things. You can't just be out here trading by yourself, right? You're pretty much, trading blindly, right? And that just doesn't make no sense. This is an actual business. Remember that. It's a business, right? Treat it as a business, right? No emotions. You can't have no emotions attached to anything. Make sure you have your rules in place, follow those rules to a T, and then deal with the consequences afterwards.
Awesome. Abel, I want to talk about misconceptions. We're about to wrap up the call here in a bit, but I really just want to pick your brain about a few more things. So there's some common misconceptions about trading. Could you talk about them, things that you hear when people first come into trading that they've kind of heard? And can you talk to us about those? And can you also talk to us about misconceptions in terms of technical analysis? Things you used to think were true, and then you later understood that they weren't true.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, so one of the biggest ones, obviously, oh man, it's a scam, right? Like I was just on a call yesterday with somebody that was interested in joining the business, right? And he said, man, but is this legal? I'm like, bro, like first of all, like, of course it is, right? If Forex was illegal and Forex was a scam, then we have bigger problems we got to deal with, right? Than whether this thing works, right? So obviously one of the biggest ones is Forex true? Can people actually become full-time successful traders? Can they literally live off of Forex, right? That's like the biggest questions that I get. And it's possible, but you got to realize it takes time and a lot of discipline to do that, right? So many people ask me, Abel, can I retire my job in a year? I mean, it's very hard for me to say yeah, right? Because I mean, I've seen people do it, right? But it's very hard for me to say yeah, because the people that have done it, they usually had fat bank accounts before they did that. Right. So if you're somebody on here on this call that wants to do this for a living, right, that you want to quit your job to do this, you better have a cushion behind you, right? Because that's a whole nother battle that you have to deal with. Right. So the scam, that's usually the biggest one. Another one is, can I live off of Forex? It's possible because I've been living off of Forex for a while now. Right. It's not my only source of income. Right. That's another thing. Right. Some people might hate me for this, but I feel like anybody that only relies on Forex as their only source of income is crazy. Right. This is just my personal opinion. Right. Because you don't know what's going to happen. Right. You don't know what situations you're going to go through in life. Right. Damn. Right. You don't know what situations you're going to go through in life. Right. You have no idea. Right. And you got to be, again, mentally sane when you're trading these markets. Right. So it's possible, but it's best to have another source of income as well, just in case you do mess up on your account. We're all human. Right. I told you guys a story about how I messed up last week, right before a flight. I was rushing, right? It's little things like that that can eventually really hurt our accounts to a point where one big loss could be what it takes to mess you all up, right? There was one big loss that I took when I first started that really caused me to go no type of consistent wins at all for a 3-month period. Like literally, it was one big loss because I jumped in emotionally. And 3 months moving forward, I couldn't get nothing. I felt like I lost it all. I felt like I didn't know what I was looking at in the charts. The charts look absolutely crazy. So you just never know, right? You have to have that cushion there just in case you do go through those periods where, you know, it might seem like your strategy doesn't work for now, right? So those are a couple that I deal with. Scam, can you live off it? It's possible, but you got to make sure that you're really secure if you do want to live off this full time.
For sure. All right, that's awesome. And yeah, that misconception that people come in with, that everybody wants to be like, oh, that's cool, but it's not me. You know, I'm not going to be the one to fall into that trap. I'm not going to be the one to make the mistakes that everybody else is making. Guys, you have to understand that we are all human, right? Yeah. If institutional traders have performance coaches for a reason, right? Because even they go through the fluctuations and the emotional imbalances. So it's really important to make sure that you guys understand how volatile trading is and see how that plays into your life and your long-term goals. Abel, man, really appreciate you for getting on. This has been one of the best podcasts that I think we've had. Are there any things that you wish that traders will know before they get off this call? So by the time that they're done with this podcast, is there something that you would hope that traders at home understand fully?
Yeah, for sure. Listen, don't try to do it yourself, right? Don't try to be the self-made trader, right? I used to try to say that, right? I'm self-made. Like, no, nobody's self-made, right? You're learning from somebody, whether it be on your own time or a mentor, right? If you really want to cut the learning curve in half, find mentorship, man. Like they say, amateurs learn from their own results, but professionals learn from other people's results, right? So learn from other people's mistakes, right? Learn from other people's results, learn from, what other people have went through just to cut the learning curve in half, right? It's much easier when you're learning from somebody that's already went through the struggles, went through what you're about to go through, and they can guide you through the whole thing instead of you trying to do it yourself like I did, right? I'm not going to say I wasted, but I spent an entire year and a half trying to do it myself, and I got nowhere from it, right? But once I did get mentorship, that's when everything started to really click, and that's when my consistency started to really go up. So don't try to be that self-made person, right? Look for mentorship, look for guidance, because that's really what's going to get you to the next level.
Awesome. Abel, a lot of people are going to be watching this tomorrow. That's going to be airing on Sunday before the week starts. What should traders be looking at before the week starts in order to get themselves primed and ready for the week ahead? And what should they do right after they turn off this podcast? What should they go and do?
Yeah, for sure. So every single week, this is what I do personally, right? On Sundays, I always turn on some nice cooling music, right? Some lo-fi or something like that, right? Make the vibes right. And then I always start to look at my charts, right? I start to get my analysis, my weekly analysis, right? My longer term pictures, right? Not on the 15-minute time frame. No, I'm looking at the daily picture, right? I'm trying to get my long-term biases for the week. And I'm also paying attention to the dollar index, right? I want to see what the dollar is going to do overall for the week. And I also make sure that I understand what fundamentals are going to get released for the week, right? That's a huge misconception, actually, that I want to put out there, right? So many people believe that this market is fully ran by technical analysis, and that's just not true, right? This market is run by fundamental analysis, right? Things like interest rates, unemployment rates, right? Things that are happening in the world, things like that. That's what's controlling these markets, right? So it's best for you to figure out what type of news events are going to get released for the week, right? It's best for you to go, to Bloomberg TV, right? Bloomberg Business, right? Fox News Business, CNN Business, whatever one you want, right? Start to see what those analysts are saying about the economy and the state of the economy is before the market opens. So that when you go into this week, right, you at least know fundamentally where, certain currencies and how the economy is going to go moving forward, right? So that's the big thing that I recommend everybody to do, right?
All right, that's awesome. You guys heard it here. When you guys get off this call, make sure you are preparing yourself for the week ahead. Thank you for everything that you've taught me over the years. Abel, a true mentor by definition and a true friend. Thank you for stopping by the Expert Trader podcast series. Ladies and gentlemen, all links, if you guys want to get in contact with Abel, all links will be provided under this video. Make sure you guys check him out on IG, check him out on his website.